I think that's so important. Showcasing that it can be done, telling them how to do it, and then learn from the pain from others, because that's where you don't have to always be a groundbreaker.
Hello and welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Retail Podcast. Now, my guest that you're going to meet today, I am aware of what they're going to be doing at NRF in just 7 days, there or thereabouts. If you cast your minds back before Christmas or the New Year, I was talking about the transformation pillars in retail. Retail at the speed of community, retail at the speed of intelligence, and retail at the speed of experience. And I haven't seen a technical stack that can actually meaningfully do this in the real world. So Pim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me today.
Let's just do a quick who you are, what do you do for those who don't know you?
I am Pim Vijftigschild. I'm the Chief Commercial Partner Officer of New Black. We tend to do things a little bit differently. So where everyone is talking about unified commerce, we saw actually that there is another wave coming, and that's the wave of contextual commerce. And instead of trying to be a unicorn in unified commerce, we decided, hey, but that wave of contextual commerce is actually much bigger and is actually much cooler to be on that one, because that's not only talking about those unifying those channels where everyone is still talking about, but it's also grabbing the interaction that actually led to the transaction itself. And if you are able to do that, then we bring retail back where it actually was in the past, where you had, when you walk to a store close by in your street probably, and you had that guy working there who know you and who know that is Alex, and Alex has his left feet is a little bit bigger than his right feet. So when I'm showing something, I need to show the right shoe, because then he will do it anyhow. And I know that Alex doesn't like black shirts, so I need to come with the blue one, because then he will probably buy it. Oh, and by the way, I'm aware that his wife likes this as well. So I think you were familiar with that. That was how business and retail was run a long time ago. And I think in luxurious retail, you still saw that black book where they do that. Yeah, the little black book. And I think when we started with omnichannel and the rise of social commerce and the rise of the other market platforms and Amazon and things like that, that got lost a little bit. But you see that people are looking for a sense of belonging and fostering two-way communication and things like that. And it's brought back. So last year we said we need to do something around that. So that's a little bit where we are working on. And we are excited now that we are close to doing that. And of course, we said that when we launched New Black, we wanted to help retailers to become adaptive to change. And I think we are in a pivotal moment as we speak, because there is a lot of change going on, and we need to prepare them. And that's what we want to do.
I've met so many executives in retail that are so nervous about touching their internal store systems, the POS system. How do you get around that people's or execs' nervousness to go down this route, because they do have this, and it's a term that I know that you are very familiar to and you've coined in terms of the Frankenstack. What's the approach to sort of say, it's okay, don't worry?
Well, first of all, I think that a retailer needs to look at themselves. Am I willing, ready, and capable of entering the next level of digital transformation?
Yeah.
That's a question that we can't answer. We can only ask questions. But if you are really able to do that, I think that's one thing. And I think after that, it's 15% technology, 85% is courage. Courage of actually doing it. Courage of having the conversation. Courage of bringing the right people together. That means breaking down your internal silos, bringing together retail operations, e-commerce, digital, perhaps IT, perhaps finance even, and to have a clear strategy. This is where we're going towards. And then we see two types of customers. We see a customer that says, okay, I have legacy. I can try to improve this, but I'm going to build a new stack next to it and then flip over a moment. That are companies like Kiko Milano who were so courageous to actually do that. And you have retailers that actually have a long-term vision. Okay, this is where I'm heading towards. I'm going towards a more platform approach where I have that integrated order management, integrated POS, integrated task management already, but I do it project by project because my organization is unable to do it everything at once, which makes sense. I do it step by step. But that means that a retailer that is also letting go that best of breed strategy, then you can't look at it from an, let's say, from a POS perspective only, or a task management perspective only. And I think that's a little bit what we call the best of breed RFP approach,
Got you.
where you need to look a little bit more, we believe, need to look a little bit more holistically. And then that taps into one other thing, is that you typically don't see in an RFP, is that's about the roadmap. How often do you change the roadmap? How often there are questions asked about the roadmap, but there are never, if you do at that best of breed approach, there is
Yeah.
never asked, can I have influence on that you need to do an update because my other systems need to do an update? I have never seen the question. Perhaps it was there, but I have never seen it. So I'm biased perhaps there.
So from sort of replaying back what you're saying, you're modular by nature. And so therefore there isn't a big bang where you have to rip out everything. It's
No.
come on the journey, start with, it may just be POS, and then build from there, right? It's a modular approach to building that.
Yeah, it's a modular approach. It's a modular project approach. Basically, if you're moving to contextual commerce or unified commerce, you're running a program and you're running an implementation, and after that you're doing a rollout, and then you're adding more and more and more. That's more, let's say, a program approach. I truly believe that implementing unified commerce is not a project. It's a program that needs continuously updates, continuously changes, because first, tech is changing. Secondly, customers are changing. And then if you're an enterprise retail, also legislation is changing. So you need to keep those three in track and align those three.
NRF, you've got so many things going on. You're at NRF, you're doing offsite events, you're doing partner events. But tell me what you've got, because I've heard about the iOS Valley Street.
No, iOS Avenue.
America, iOS Avenue.
Yeah.
What's that? Tell me about the iOS Avenue.
So, first of all, we are doing what we try to do needs to be remarkable. So basically, we do two things. We do iOS Avenue.
Yeah.
And iOS Avenue is basically the first stop of our world tour. We have built an ecosystem over the last years with our core partners: iPort, Jamf, Zipline, Scandit, Apple, Microsoft, JP Morgan Chase, iGen, and Streamline, and NetApp, of course. And that is everything to do that what we call retail runs on iOS. These are the companies that are able to run enterprise retail on iOS. Right. And if you are a retailer, then you come into play with zero-touch deployment from Jamf. You come into play with RFID, and then you would like to have a company that's integrated into that one, which also has the ability to have an RFID reader that fits on an iPhone. Then you come to play with the bridge between the iPads and your furniture in store, and then of course a platform like ours, but also things like to get the telemetrics out of the devices and to have the best store experience, things like that.
Wow.
So that's where all the different partners come in, and where we actually support each other on that one. And what we do at iOS Avenue is we run a store there, where we can experience from front of house to back of house how that works. We're building a store. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a store means that you can actually buy products. So that means that we need to have assortment. And the assortment that we have is what we call our nerd collection. Right. So we have launched a fashion brand. We do that every year. Every year we launch a drop, and the drop of last year was the Thirsty jacket. This year it's the Workman's jacket, and it's a sweater around the world tour, and it's an Oxford shirt which is combined with some cool things around it which you need to experience yourself. And that nerd community, what we have had, that nerd drop, people would like to have that, and then we said, okay, but let's eat our own dog food. We are telling everyone that you need to build a community and then how to do it. So one of the things that we do at NRF, we have built our own community to showcase how this works in real life with our products, with what an ambassador could do, how you encourage that, how you could create distance to tier, how you could create more loyal customers. That's what we actually do. That's what we do at there as well. And then I think what's important around, I think I've named the World Tour 2 times, 3 times. What we do with the World Tour is that for a lot of retailers, there's a lot going on at NRF. And then you come back into home or into your country, and then, okay, but now what? I have seen something really cool, but we haven't seen. So what do we do? So we have decided to go with this ecosystem on a world tour, see it like a band that's going around the world. And then we visit the different countries where if I am a French retailer, I saw something really cool at NRF.
Yeah.
We come to Paris, you can bring in your own folks, you can bring in your teams, and to showcase this is actually what I have seen. I think this is a route that we could proceed, and then we do a 1-day event where they can experience themselves how you could run your retail on iOS. And that we're going to do in 17 different cities next year.
Wow.
So it's a big tour.
Yeah. What surprises you from talking to your customers?
I think there are a lot of things every single time. Is that the control that they have over integrating into their own IT landscape? It surprises me every single time. I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is that translating the vision into business technology.
Yeah.
I think that's another one which is surprising me sometimes. And I think there is a lot of push on AI. There is a lot of push on tools like that, and a lot of promises made on that. But it's hard to get there if you're still guessing what's the inventory that you have in your store.
Yeah.
So I think that there is sometimes not always the real insight what actually is going on in the retail operation. And I like the retailers that go to their own stores, visit their own stores and see it there and be there a day. I sometimes think that there's too much deployed towards the stores without thinking what's the impact on the stores.
I think, to be fair, you're probably one of the unique companies that I've come across with where we always say the business has to move together. So the CMO needs to be there, the COO needs to be the CDO, but sometimes they turn up and they're like, well, and like building community or having your clienteling element, talking to your ops people, talking to your merchandising people. It's one of the few stacks that I see. I can imagine when you're doing the world tour, it's like the group of execs all come together because traditionally they all fall into their silos, and that's
you need to encourage that.
Yeah, I know, but the folks in technology always struggle to tell the business, and that's why sometimes that's the
I agree, but you need to help them. So you need to help the CIO with, hey, this is what your CMO needs. And CMO, this is what your head of retail needs. And
I think it'll be the other way around with you guys. I think it'll be the CMO telling the CIO, hey guys, I've come across this. We absolutely need it because this is how we engage with our customers or our clients of the future.
But Alex, I agree. But what we see is that I think the change is not about IT. The change is what we have mentioned before is about cultural differences in an organization. And that's where you almost need a cultural Sherpa actually to guide them, because hey, we are all aware of Frank of accounting that is going to retire in the next 3 years. That if you're gonna tell them that we're gonna do a really big POS project and we're gonna change everything, that Frank of accounting is probably not on the same page with you, because Frank of accounting did 25 years everything in Excel, and now he needs to learn in the last 3 years before he's going to retire a new system.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Frank likes that, but that's what you need to overcome, and that's what we need to do. And I think, and if we then look at the technology, then of course technology is there, and we have cool things. And I think one of the things that I not even tell you yet, but which we definitely should talk about, is what we're gonna do around brand communities. We have launched last year a vision. It's now live, and to say this really bold, clienteling was one-street communication, community is two-street communication, and creating a sense of belonging, which is gonna change the narrative completely.
Absolutely. What's the one question I should have asked you that I didn't, or people normally ask you and I haven't asked you?
That's a really good one, actually.
So the other questions were awful. The
No,
good one.
not at all.
I'm
No,
joking,
not at
I'm
all.
joking,
No,
I'm joking.
I think what's a question that people should have asked us, or actually, I think that's why should I do everything with one customer? Why should I do this, creating this, well, they call it the vendor lock-in.
Right. Okay.
And I believe that and this is a strong belief, and I've built on this one a long time already, is that you need to build strategic partnerships also as a customer. And I think that's the question. If you do this and you go to a platform like this, why do I have a vendor lock-in? And I have a vendor lock-in. How to avoid that? And then I think the simple question is: don't you have a vendor lock-in with Microsoft? Don't you have a vendor lock-in with Salesforce? Don't you have a vendor lock-in with all the other? So the question is, where do you feel comfortable with? And what do you have you found a company that can build together with you that strategic roadmap that you have? And I think that's something that we don't talk about too much.
I love it. Well, and the fact that the cultural Sherpas don't exist. And so companies need organizations like you that understand that can help corral or be that beacon or shining light so people can be Sherpa to cultural transformation, because that is just one element of it. Pim, thank you so much for giving up your time. I look forward to seeing you in 7 days.
See you soon. Bye bye.